with racing, then you'll love the new betting brand for racing fans. With exclusive markets, promotions, insights and content. That's better. Gamble responsibly.
Time to talk racing at headquarters at Flemington for the Standish is the main event, the Group 3 over the 1,200 metres. Man knows all about Melbourne racing is James Lamb from punters.com.au. James, welcome back, mate. Again, the same question to Shark. He turned into a whale over Christmas, New Year. How was the celebratory period?
I was already fairly plump, so I don't know if I've put any more on. But yeah, fair bit of cricket, Matty, and pulled up sore after every bit of bowling that I did.
Now, we must mention this. You have an annual cricket match.
Yes.
And there was some lots of injuries.
There was. I injured my neck putting on a cricket helmet.
Injured your neck?
Putting on a helmet, that's a first.
You tweaked a muscle? Or?
Yeah, just a little shock down the side of my body.
Yeah.
Another bloke did a calf running into bowl, and another guy did a hamstring running between wickets. So the cricket game might not be long to this world. Might be moving to the lawn bowls next year.
Remarkable.
I think it's outstanding.
I was going to ask how fit people were, but I think we've got a fairly good picture.
Bloke broke a wrist putting on a glove, did an ACL putting on the pads.
Very fragile, osteoporosis.
Yeah, well, don't worry about it. Let's move on to a day's race at Flemington. The card overall?
Yeah, it's not a bad card, not a bad betting card. There's not too many shorties on there, unlike last week where we had a couple that were rolled. But yeah, it looks a hot one. We might see a few scratchings if we do hit that 36, 37 degree mark.
The Group 3 Standish looks difficult. It's around $6 to field. I think the interesting runner, I mean, there's a couple of Perth runners coming over. The interesting runner, though, is Western Empire. It's a railway winner, a Group 1 winner, down the straight over 1,200.
Yeah, it was a bit disappointing in 2 runs for Danny O'Brien last time, but has jumped out really well. I know Shark was a fan of the jump out. I'm probably just willing to take it on first up with that weight over 1,200. Bob Peters has sort of said there's bigger fish to fry. I don't think he'll be fully wound up, but he should be hitting the line hard.
Graham Begg has a couple of runners that are good chances here, and he does seem to be able to train a winner down the straight, doesn't he?
Yeah, 2 mares, Vespertine, who won the Cup Day Sprint, I reckon, and Rose Quartz, who's been so close to breaking through, hasn't she? And probably deserves to get a stakes win in a race like this, but she's going to need a little bit of luck, won't she? As will Vespertine from Gate 1. Both get back run on mares. Yeah,
Vespertine, I was a bit worried about that barrier 1. You never like to see them draw barrier 1. I think Rose Quartz has probably drawn a bit better out in barrier 8 and should be able to find the right part of the track.
The other WA horse, Indian Pacific, it's been a while since Indian Pacific's won a race.
Has been, but Group 1 placed down the straight. So if it brought that sort of form to Flemington, last run was a little bit ordinary. It's probably not racing in its best form, but you know, horses for courses down the straight, they can turn up on their day. So yeah, it's another one that you can't rule out. As you said, very wide open race.
All right, so you've got to land somewhere. Where did you land?
Oh, I am going with Rose Quartz. I know she was disappointing over 1,000 metres here, 2 back, but wrong part of the track. That was a horse who drew barrier 1 that day. Was never in a great spot, and that race probably confirmed that she's not a 1,000 metre horse. She gets to her pet trip for the first time this campaign, 1,200. 3 goes down the Flemington 1,200 for 2 wins and a second, and probably her peak performance came over this route last February when she blew them away by about 3 or 4 lengths. So if that Rose Quartz turned up, I think she'd be winning this, but she's probably not racing at her absolute peak, but I'm hoping she'll be peaking on Saturday.
Second and third selections?
Going with Snapper, I just think probably leads with 54 kilos. Forgiving the last start down the straight, had 60 kilos and was 6 or 7 weeks between runs. So it wasn't a terrible effort, just got a bit tired late. And I've got Halvorsen. I always think this horse is a lot older than it actually is. It's only a 7-year-old. Won this race in slick time last year and 5-time winner down the straight, absolutely flies down the straight. So I got him in for third.
Got a funny feeling you're going to agree with what he just said, Halvorsen being a horse that just loves the straight.
You know what, he goes around at each way odds in these races, Matty. He often wins them. You know, I think that last run he was just a bit keen and fresh. Jockey reported as much as well, with a little gap between runs. So hoping that brings him on for what should be his summertime grand final. Each way odds, I'll play Halvorsen. I'm throwing in Western Empire. I think he'll run a really good race here. That jump out at Pakenham, I think it was, geez, he trucked to the line. And Superstorm, who's a pretty good horse, was outside him. He won the heat and he was ridden out. So I think Western Empire's going pretty well. Indian Pacific next best. I think he's over here to spark up again down the straight. It seems to have done the trick for him in the past, but he's just been a little off the boil in his summer prep in Perth.
I'm going with Indian Pacific. I think, as James mentioned, it has a second in a new market, drops to just the 54 kilos. Daniel Moore takes the ride, drawn in that sort of 7 or 8, sort of the right spot to be, whether you go in the middle or you tend to go wide. Rosa Court's second selection is everything that James has said, and I've thrown in Vespertine. Would have gone with, perhaps if the draws had been the opposite, you swap them around, don't you, the 2 grade bed runners. Vespertine with that barrier 1 probably puts it down to 3rd. All right, that's the Group 3 Standish. What about some other bets that we should be concentrating on?
Really keen on race 5, number 2, Forbidden City, going with the mare's in form theory, and this mare is absolutely airborne at the moment. Good winning at Sandown 2-back, and then just blew them away at the Valley last start. That was incredibly arrogant, sat back and just looped around the field and just kept on going. I think she would have won by 3 lengths if the race was another 100 metres. So I think she probably settles a little bit closer in this as well. She doesn't need to be out the back and looping them. I'll probably settle around midfield or just forward of that, and there's no reason why she can't at least hold that level. 4th up, I think she is on Saturday, and I know it's a rising grade on paper, but it doesn't look that much of a harder race. So I think she's a really good bet at $3 plus if we can get that on Saturday.
That's your best bet. Any other bets in value?
Yeah, next best was race 8, number 6, Kentucky Casanova. Really good fresh horse, 2 from 2 when first up, and really liked his recent jump out over 1,000 metres at Pakenham. He finished second in that jump out, but the winner of that heat was really ridden out, and the jockey on Kentucky Casanova didn't barely move to muscle. So I think he's ready to go first up, and the connections have actually knocked back, or this was a while ago, but they knocked back $500,000 from Hong Kong for this horse. So I obviously think he's got a few good wins in him, and he should be running well on Saturday. I see there's already been a fair bit of early money for him, but we're still getting around the $4 quote for Kentucky Casanova.
Always sell, Matty.
Always sell. Always sell. Someone told me that at a very young age. Always sell. Your bets for the day?
Forbidden City is my best as well. She's just airborne, and that was such an easy win last time. I think she'll just go and do it again. And Flemington will probably suit her better, that big long straight to wind up in a straight line. So looking for another wide margin win from her. Going to race 7, Arran Bay, went off near enough to favourite at $3.50, $3.60 chance last time. They handed up the lead, and then he sort of got caught 2.5, 3 horses wide, and then blended into the race a bit early. Nothing went right in the run. Before that, he dominated a race and won. I think he's over the odds in this event.
I've got Forbidden City on top, and for those of you watching saying, you can't all have the same horse. Well, we all do the form separately. You can have the same horse. Forbidden City for everything the boys mentioned. Value, I black booked Blowing when it finished hard that race. I'm hoping from Forbidden City's race that Ryuki finishes well. Ryuki ran in that same race and Blowing sort of finished around that, so I think that could be a good form line there. Gets the 1400, his only winning distance, so my value is Blowing in around the $10 mark. But we didn't get your value bet.
Yes, I should have mentioned that. Race 9, number 17, Miso. Fan of the soup and a fan of the horse, Matty. There's 2 clear faves in this race, and I'm pretty happy to bet around them. I think Miso probably leads from a good draw, provided he steps cleanly, which he didn't do at Sandown 2-back, which was costly. But coming out of a benchmark 64 at Warrnambool, so it doesn't look great on paper, but I think the winner there, Wishlaw Lass, is a pretty smart horse. They gapped the rest and they ran really fast time. So I said when I watched that race, I'm keen to follow both of these horses, and Miso was turned up in a winnable race at around $8 or $9.
The good thing about Miso, it should be served first, so it should finish first.
I like that.
I do. Thank you, James. Good to see you again.
Good to be back, Matty.
Great to have James Lamb back. We'll finish off at Flemington, and on the other side, we'll talk to Nick H, and we're talking racing at Rosehill Gardens.
The betting brand for sports fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.